great family, and it's a great series, and it's about the never-ending process of them building their business. And I'm always amazed that, Mike will tell me things like, "Oh, they're going through this, and this," but it's always,
So,
boom, we're ready to like kick that in the ass, and we're going to keep moving. And I think that probably started with your dad and Tommy, Tommy Senior,
yes.
and you guys have continued it. And I'm very proud to be on connected to this show.
Hey, I'm Mike Ungaro, and welcome to Fish Factor. I'm the CEO, visionary, and business co-owner of the Kings of Fish TV series on Amazon Prime and the legendary San Pedro Fish Market. Under my leadership, we saw double-digit annual sales growth for over a decade and became the second most visited seaside attraction on the western seaboard, second only to SeaWorld. On this channel, you'll get an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to run a multi-generational business that's been operating since 1956, the highs, the struggles, and the unique challenges of working with family. You'll see firsthand what it takes to keep a seafood empire thriving while also producing our TV series, Kings of Fish, which you can watch right here on YouTube and on Amazon Prime. Today, I'm excited to be joined by my good buddy and executive producer of the Kings of Fish TV series, Tim Wasmundt. With over 20 years in Hollywood as an executive producer, director, and editor, Tim is a true expert storyteller. He's worked on major reality hits like Iron Chef, Bar Rescue, and Adventure Capitalist, just to name a few. So, Tim, welcome to the Fish Factor.
First of all, this is crazy.
We're on the other side.
I'm supposed to be asking you the questions right now, and for 9 years, I have been on the other side of the camera watching your pretty face and all the family do their thing, and now I'm on this side, so it feels weird, but be gentle with me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just be gentle.
So I was thinking about that today. It has been 9 years, almost 10 years. From
2016.
From what I remember in our original meeting and conversation, and our mutual friend Scott Holmes put us together because I had been studying business and a program with Scott for some time, and telling him I'm trying to figure out we're studying all this stuff about storytelling, and I'm trying to figure out how can I use that in our business. And we had this side project that we did with a production company, and they created the sizzle reel and tried to shop it around and didn't go anywhere. And I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, I want you to meet Tim. And from what I remember, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about this, what I remember our original conversations being was you were concerned because you could see a decade ago that the world of entertainment and television was changing, was kind of shifting away from the traditional stuff that you had been working on. And it was going more towards the streaming platforms, and you had some concerns and worries. So you were looking to try something new, I guess. So talk a little bit about that. Remind me of what we talked about. Am I off? Is that accurate?
Absolutely accurate. First of all, shout out to Scott. It crazy the way that we met. Well, my son and his son were in the same school,
Hmm.
and somehow we met at a parent teacher conference at some point, and we hit it off, and he said, I might have a project for you. And yes, because he knew your concerns. He knew your business was looking for, we need to tell a story. And I kind of told him, I'm like, I'm not into marketing. I don't know how to market. I'm a reality person. I've done it for years. All I know how to do is do reality. And he was like, it's sort of the same concept. And then I started realizing, like, you know what? You're right. I'm working on Bar Rescue right now. That was 10 years ago as well. I'm still working on Bar Rescue, by the way,
Wow.
but
10
um,
years. Wow.
I mean, that show's been going for forever, and it'll continue. But I started realizing, like, all the all the businesses that were putting their sponsorships in a bar that was being renovated, and I started, like, realizing, like, you know what, it is the future of how can we tell how can the businesses tell their stories um, in a interesting way. like not commercials. Like we're sick of commercials. My kids don't want to watch commercials. And I started seeing back then, like
How old were the
that
kids at that point? That's 10 years ago. So
10 years. So so Von Skye is my company, and it's Ava Skye and Jagger Von. So Von
oh,
Skye is where my company comes from. 10 years ago, they were 9 and 6.
and they were fast forwarding commercials. Is that what you're saying?
100%. Oh, they wouldn't watch anything.
I've heard that from other people who've been.
They would not watch they would not watch anything that had a commercial, even a 15-second commercial. They're like, skip. And I'm like, how can we people are always going to want entertainment, but we're not doing it for free. There's all these companies that are producing entertainment. They have to make money. And so I started thinking of like, well, look, like Bar Rescue has ways of all these sponsorship dollars. And then I looked at I was working for a company at the time that was producing Duck Dynasty. I did not get on that show, but I saw how their company was like was blowing up at the same time. And it's like we as people, we see reality TV and we're like, oh, okay, I'm interested. And I just sort of it was magic because at that same time, that's when I was meeting Scott, and he told me what you guys were looking to do, and I was like, all right, I'm not necessarily a marketing person, but you weren't looking for marketing anyways. You were looking to tell your
Yeah.
story, and I was like, all right, I can do that. And so um, I'll never forget the first time that I went into San Pedro Fish Market. I was meeting y'all, and
Remind me because I don't even remember.
God, I was terrified. I was terrified. Like Tommy was sitting there like,
Was that the one when I cooked something? I cooked lunch. Was that the same?
no, that was before it. It
Oh,
was this was before like Kings of Fish was greenlit.
mm,
It was I basically I was pitching what I could do, for you all, and I'll never forget. Tommy was just like, John was like,
every day basically.
Henry. I mean, it was just, and I get it. I understand why they were, but I, sort of had to tell them, my side and the history that I had in TV. And I think you were pretty good at, greasing it all up. Like you made it a little easier for me. You've always been the one that could sell that side of it. You all along have always known how to,
Yeah, I try.
the purpose of what we're doing, so yeah, that was it.
It's always somewhere between should I call and yell at Tim or just walk over and yell at Mike? Like, what's faster for me? At least for Tommy.
It's always that.
I'm curious because I don't think I've ever heard you talk about like the sponsorship part on other shows you've worked on. What did that look like? What would be an example that you were seeing sponsors? Well, you said Bar Rescue. Is that where it was?
Yeah, so Bar was one. I was working on the post side at that time, but at like towards the end of each episode, you would see like a long list of sponsorships,
Oh, right.
and and that that wasn't like the big hit. The big hit was when John Taffer was rescuing a bar. He would say, and we've also got XYZ, XYZ came in and they offered us free sinks or free barware or free, and it was always that one mention,
Wow.
and that was their business model, and it still is. It's literally 10 seasons in, but I think they just passed over 300 episodes,
Great.
and I've probably done 150 of them. Like
Wow.
at some point, like I've touched a lot of them. I've been very fortunate in that.
I could see like I mean that's really what I've been looking at since we met. It's like how do we do that? Because now it's different than when we started. At the time we were just trying to exist, right? I knew we had this big customer following, but I knew also that we were so head down, butt up, never talking about what we did that nobody really knew what's the San Pedro fish. Oh, is that place in Pedro, or is that the place in the water? Like even where I live in the Orange County area, if I mention San Pedro, they might point, is that over there by where the mountain thing is? And they still didn't really understand who we were or what we did. And it wasn't
Right.
until we started working together and we had some other people that were helping us like sort of inventory these different accomplishments that we had that I didn't even know we had. Like the amount of people that were coming in. We hired someone to count cars. And I realized there's some really good stories that we could be telling in a compelling way, not in a boring statistical way, that I think could make a difference. And at the time it did. I brought in a lot of new customers. But now it's different because now, I mean, we've opened a couple of restaurants that have failed. I'm not like, we learned from that. And
Yeah.
I had done one of my own 20 years ago that failed really badly. But now we're in this different mode where we know what works, we know what we're after. And as I'm going to like restaurant shows and looking at these locations, and we're talking to architects, and we're talking to suppliers, and we're expanding our tech stack, with the QR code thing that we have at the landing through me and you, and bringing in Toast as a point of sale system. It's like I'm looking at all this going, there's partnerships that we could be forging and putting together to help us and incorporate them in the storyline to really make this into a different sort of business venture than we had in the past. So it's just crazy that it's taken this many years to figure that out. That's
But I'm telling you, like we are, yeah, 10 years in the making almost, but we are on the cusp of it all. I mean, TV is changing. It really is. Like I'm working on like shows that are just, I've been fortunate to work on something like Bar Rescue that's going to continue, but there are many, many shows. The budgets are being cut. And so I feel like you and I and Scott and the team, Carl, like all of us, like we're on the cusp of something amazing because
yeah.
the budgets are being cut. And so connecting with companies and businesses that just need to tell their story. We've been trying to tell our stories for forever. I mean, the first, cavemen, I mean, they were putting, cave art up. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like that's been our form of communication forever. And it's like the amazing part about doing Kings of Fish, and y'all have been, um, you've really made it easy for me because I've worked on a lot of shows where you try to like the stars are just not great. They're hard to work with, and none of you are actors, and so you like I would just come through and I would go, look, this is the setup. This we want to talk about this. That's it. And you all would just
I'll tell you, man. Before we worked together, there was different instances where people would come down and say, "We'd like to film this or put you in this show," and I didn't know how it was going to go. And
yeah.
it was usually Henry and I, and we have a good chemistry in those situations where we did like a show called Drink Inc., where they came and looked at our food, and then they went back and created like cocktails, signature cocktails for us. And so, but I didn't know what everyone else was going to be like because John's not really big on being on camera, but when he is, he shines. He has his own thing. And same with Jennifer and Tommy's sort of he's a closet attention junkie. you know.
I was thinking of, side note, I was thinking of like side stories of like I knew we were going to be on this podcast, like, and I was thinking of like little side stories, and Tommy he is terrifying to work with, and I've worked with a lot, like there's a lot of people, but Tommy is like very intimidating when he first comes at you, and so I was thinking like. I worked with another Tommy Lister, who was Debo.
Oh
Debo, and
yeah. You brought him down one time. Yeah.
he actually came to the market with you guys.
Didn't he
And
like choke a customer?
what's
Didn't he
that?
like choke a customer?
Yes, he was, and very terrifying as well, and known for being the Debo.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, so Tommy is Tommy Tiny Lister. That's his name. But our little, for real tiny Tommy was terrifying. And I was thinking like when we would have our big cruise, we'd have like three cameras, two audio people going on, and when Tommy was done, he was done. He did not care. He was just like, "I'll talk to you later. I'm paying the bills." And I was just like, but underneath that, I mean, obviously he's a sweetheart.
Yeah,
He really, really is. But he
yes.
he played that character. He played that character well. And
He plays himself quite well. So, hey, I'm kind of sorry. I had a bunch of stuff on my mind here. So, um, one of the things that I've been working on and trying to figure out is the more I think about who we are and what we do, the less I think about us as a restaurant. And the more that we branch out and we produce this content, I kind of see this as this content production machine. Like as an example, I was on a call right before this with the guy named Finn McKenty, and I didn't know who he was except that I saw him on one of the Cali Barbecue Rising Tide podcasts.
cool. Yeah.
Our partners now, and he reached out and said, "Love to talk to you sometime." So he gave me like 30 minutes, and I was explaining what we do and how we do it and who we are, and he said something that has been in the back of my mind, but I couldn't really tie it together. He's like, you have these customers that are driving 6 hours to eat there and then 6 hours to leave. You have this 700,000 followers on your social media. You have the 2 million customers you're serving. There's so many places where that could be tied in because each of those is not just a great story. It's a social media opportunity. It's a storytelling opportunity. It's a sponsorship opportunity. And I was thinking like, yeah, those are pretty unique because he's like, you're not just a restaurant. I go, no. And that's really the key. I don't think we're a restaurant. We're an experiential brand that people travel to visit. And what we're trying to do with you and with Kings of Fish is really bring that to people, let them know who we are, and then actually be part of it. I know we did one episode where I think we ran a contest that if you watched it and shared it, we would have you come and visit and then send you to Disneyland or something. We did a couple of events like that where we gave them, or actually it might have been Vegas. We gave them gift cards to travel and for the amusement parks and stuff. Like what in your experience of projects you've worked on, like what does that speak to you? Like in other words, I know Bar Rescue is different bars and some of the other shows that you've done, but can you think of another project you worked on where you're seeing the focus on the show being more than just a restaurant or a business, and like where it's really more multifaceted, like what we're doing? I don't know if we're unique or common, so I'm trying to understand. I'm curious what you're.
And so, yes, and I was about to say, like, I don't know if I have the right answer here, but I
No
think
wrong.
no, I haven't worked on anything that we're doing. I think we are very unique
Mm,
in that, and but I think we're here at the right time of where we should be. I mean, that's where brands are going. That's where um,
mm,
companies need to be able to tell their stories to the customer in an entertaining way, and we're doing that. And I mean, 10 years ago we weren't, or 9 years ago, 2016 when we started, we weren't. I wouldn't say we were as experiential as we are now, but we've learned, we've
yeah,
been growing, we're adapting, and I love the way that you at the helm have like helped us pivot to those moments. And
thanks.
I'm like, for me, I know how to tell stories. That's what I'm good at. And luckily we have an amazing team of really smart people that were working this, and I think we've really built this media company now. Like, like for me, I started Von Skye years ago. That's my production company. But like since then, we started Kings of Fish Media. Like we're adapting, and I think we're ready for the future. And and obviously, like we've talked, like we're going to not only do Kings of Fish, but we want to do
Yeah,
multiple shows and multiple, like let's find companies that need their story told. Let's tell it. I'm excited to do that.
I have a couple more things, and then I'll kind of watch in time. Like, I'm curious, is there any story that you can share, like behind the scenes? You're like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened with one of the other shows you've worked
Other shows, I mean, um,
like a bar rescue story, or you've done like Iron Chef America, Below Deck. I don't know. You're in the editing base, so you're not on scene like you are with us in those shows, correct?
Most of those shows are on. They've already been filmed,
Hmm.
and so when like for me primarily, I'm editing these shows,
Yeah.
and so seeing 20 hours worth of content, I got to cut it down to 40 minutes and really tell the story, and then hearing what the network actually wants. Though those are definitely challenges.
I'll bet.
They've always been. I mean, nothing's really coming to my mind specifically, other than I worked on a show that was it was a wrestling show. I don't know if I can even say what the wrestling show was. Um, the CEO of this wrestling company, wrestling show, wrestling feder- federation, um, wa- was very hands on, but he did not pay attention to the show that we were creating at all
Oh,
until the night it was supposed to air. And he said, "This ain't it. This is not what I want." And they had to scrap the whole thing.
wow.
Like,
No.
like it was a huge deal for the production company that I was working for. Had to really like they had to do a lot of struggling. But that's the one thing that I learned years ago is like you like know what the CEO or like know what they really want,
Yeah.
and you have to deliver that.
Yeah.
And that one didn't get delivered, and I think that they took it in house, and it's a big wrestling company. It's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It's the biggest wrestling company probably of all time.
Wow.
But
So
it was
big. Yeah, it's good to know what your customer expects before you produce the product.
100%, 100%. And at that time, I was just like, I'm just an editor. I don't know. You
Well,
gave me what you
I can
wanted, but
I remember you telling me early on, it's like if I could be there with the camera, I could tell I would get the angles that I needed, which is what's
yeah.
been like beneficial working with us because you're doing both.
Yes, as an editor, I always knew like, oh, why? Like I used to complain when they were producing these big shows, and I'm telling you that these are huge budget shows of like 10 cameras. And I'm like, you had 10 cameras and you still missed that shot that I need. Like,
Oh man.
how is that possible?
Yeah.
And so I'm always impressed with what we get from Kings of Fish with 2 or 3 cameras, like a smaller crew, like we can really tell it on a lower budget, and it's all about the storytelling. It really really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been
Yeah, that's all of it, right? Storytelling. Okay, my last question. So I got to frame it correctly because I don't want it to go south.
uh-oh, uh-oh.
I was, we almost scrapped the whole series, right? Because with the pandemic and we lost a couple family members and we had other issues going on. And I was thinking about it because I'm looking. I know the story behind the shirt you're wearing, which I'll let you share it. But
Yeah,
for those of you watching, if you've watched the early episodes of Kings of Fish, like probably the most entertaining character was Tommy Jr., Tommy Senior's son. And sadly, we lost him to COVID, and we just didn't really want to go on with the show. And I was like, well, how do we even do this? I mean, we did, but we didn't because we just didn't really know how to do it. And then we had an offer to produce, a whole season and put it on the Amazon Prime, which we did. But the question was
yeah,
like, well, how are we going to do it if he's not even part of the show? And so, we had this meeting with the whole family, and we said, this is what we have, and Pepsi's going to sponsor, and Tim's willing to do it. And there was tears, it was an emotional meeting because I mean, Tommy Senior was losing it a little bit over his son, and you were so great because you were like, the guy was one of my best friends. I want to memorialize him and all this stuff. And then you came on wearing the shirt, and I'm like, oh man, you got to tell the story about how you got that shirt from him.
yes. So there was one night. I mean, so there was one day where we're filming, and so Tommy Senior would always tell me anytime I showed up without a San Pedro shirt or a Kings of Fish shirt, he would be like, "Hey, I'm paying for this. Like like I'm paying for your time." He'd always be like, he's always like, "There's 10 people here that are sitting around on my dime." so I always knew I had to wear a San Pedro shirt,
Yeah.
and there was one day where Tommy Jr. Sweetheart, may he rest in peace. He was wearing this shirt right here, and I was like, man, that's really nice. Like it happened to be during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and he literally he took it off his shoulders and handed it to me and said, here, there you go.
Yeah.
And I mean, it means everything to me. And we've had great memories of him, and like the one time I was trying to think, like we have every time I try to produce something with y'all, something's going to change and it's going to get better. So remember the one time when we produced, we were going to go out to the mussel farm
Oh yeah.
out
Oh
in,
my God, yeah. Catalina
out.
Ranch.
Yes, we were going to go out there
You,
and everything
you
was
thought we were
produced. And
really
I'm like,
going to Catalina.
this is happen. And then the next thing I know, we're on this giant barge. What do you even call that thing that we were on?
It was
It wasn't a barge, but it
it
was
was
it was a boat. It was a moving
it
vessel.
was a moving vessel, and so they were harvesting mussels on these big like posts, and that ship would take them off and then run them through a conveyor, clean them off, and get them ready to send to market. It was really
But
cool.
our boat was I don't know, 20
Yeah,
foot
yeah,
yacht, not, but our 20-foot boat
yeah.
was connected to it. And I'll never forget, like, we had filmed all this stuff about the mussels and everything else. And I'm up there with the captain, and I hear you yelling, oh, there's a boat going, our boat's going down, our boat's sinking.
Yeah. That really happened.
Tommy Jr. had sat on the boat, and he decided to start fishing. And I don't know that honestly that it was his fault that it happened, but the main vessel started backing up, and it just our boat that we came on did not want to back up with us, and so yes, the boat started going down like this,
And
and
Lee was screaming, one of your team members. Like, my brother John's like, "What the heck?" And Tommy Jr.'s jumping around in the water. I mean, the whole
John was like, "I got my boots wet."
and they lost like the tackle box and some other stuff. They just
Yeah, yeah. But I thought, like, look, I produced all this stuff. I thought this is what's going to happen. And then, nope, that's not what happened. Something more like more entertaining happened. And at the end of it, I was like, that sucked, but yes, that
yeah.
I was so happy about that.
I,
But that was just one little Tommy Jr.
I
story.
always
Sure.
suspected that the cat you just got the guy who was driving the boat captain. I think he was so nervous having your camera on him that he didn't realize what was happening down below.
I think so.
But yeah,
I think
Tommy Jr.'s yelling, "It's going down! It's going down!" He's screaming, and that's all in an episode you can watch.
that's it.
Well, hey, is there anything else you wanted to add? Any stories or questions or anything else we could hit on before we wrap up?
I think I think all I want to say is like watch Kings of Fish. It's a fun show. It's about a real legitimate family. I love them all. Like I've been working with them for 9 years, and I've worked with a lot of different people with all the shows that I've worked on, but they are my favorite. And
That's nice.
I really I always get emotional because I'm a Pisces, but whatever.
I'm
Um,
just a Leo. I just roar and laugh.
it's a great family, and it's a great series, and it's about the never-ending process of them building their business. And I'm always amazed that Mike will tell me things like, oh, they're going through this and this, but it's always,
So,
boom, we're ready to like kick that in the ass, and we're going to keep moving. And I think that probably started with your dad and Tommy, Tommy Senior,
yes.
and you guys have continued it. And I'm very proud to be on connected to this show.
Oh,
Very proud.
thank you, man. That's really kind. I was thinking the last few days, just kind of reflecting as we're watching the phase two of the landing getting built finally after 2 years of being in a parking lot, which is a whole other story. And as I'm thinking through, okay, we started now. Now that I'm putting the timeline together when we began this, we were riding a wave up of the business doing really well.
Yeah,
Then the
yeah,
pandemic hit, and the eviction and all these things. And this decade, so 2020 to now, has been some of the most challenging and trying, crazy times that, on one hand, I hate all of it, but I'm also glad that we captured it, because there's two things that we have that are different than any time before we met you. I realized, and I think you brought this up in that meeting we had with the Moftano family when we were deciding, are we going to do another season? Because Tommy Jr.'s kids were there and Tommy Sr. And, at that point, Tommy Sr. had lost both of his kids, both Tiffany and Tommy Jr. to COVID. It was terrible. But I think you brought something up in that meeting that I thought about, is like, when my dad passed away, I was the same age as Tommy Jr.'s kids, because Tommy Jr., my dad, basically like mid-50s. And really all I have are some old V8, little like videotapes from my wedding and some photographs. I don't have a lot, like I have my memories. But those kids have 7 seasons of Kings of Fish to look at their dad being himself, not like he was being somebody else. He wasn't pretending to be Tommy Jr. He was like, this is who I am. And it's like, it's such a great memorial to him to have all those. And then we, rememorialize him in the season on Amazon Prime, which is awesome. And they loved it, by the way. Like Maria, his wife, and the kids really loved being able to see all that. But then I was thinking too, it's like, we've also, when we started working with our producers on this podcast, Sean Walchef, who's basically the guy behind all this, was like, before, when we met, he didn't know about Kings of Fish. And then we started to work together, and he goes, you have a whole season on the pandemic. I go, I do? I blocked that out.
Yes.
I don't even want to think about it. And he goes,
so true.
No one's captured that in our industry in the way that you guys have. And I was thinking, like, well, not only that, we've captured how we dealt with it, and now we're capturing, 20, I'm going to be 55, so 20's, 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, San Pedro Fish Market, because I was probably 9, 10 years old when we got evicted the first time and worked out of a parking lot. And there's just some old photos, we're digging through file boxes and just trying to find any documentation of what it was like to work out of a parking lot. And I think at most we found like a dozen photos, maybe 2 dozen. But we've got a whole season, 2 seasons we'll have now of what it took to do this again. And like, it's documented so well. And with the 49-year lease here and the 30-year in Monterey and what we're doing there, like the next couple generations of our family, and not just the Ungaro Moftano family, I mean like the families that have worked for us multi-generational, they're going to be able to look back and go, my God, we did some really incredible things. These aren't just stories Tommy was telling over a bottle of wine. There's actual TV show on it. So I think it's really cool. If everything else fails, it's documented. Like that's to me, it's almost worth its weight in whatever we can weigh.
Really. And y'all have been an amazing family to document. I mean, like I said, you make my job easy. Like I can write up things, but something else is always going to happen. And your fortitude and the resilience that y'all have.
Yeah, seriously.
Business wise, it's crazy that you are as good as you are on camera, because business wise, you're equally or even better at. So I'm like, how did I get so lucky of producing the show about these people that actually are really good on camera, that actually have really good stories, and thank you for allowing me to roll on this with you.
Oh man, couldn't do without you. Thank you. So I think we can wrap it up there. Now that we gave everybody everything they could ever imagine wanting to know. Thanks for listening to episode 4 of Fish Factor. Mike Ungaro. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And you can also catch all the episodes of our Amazon Prime show, Kings of Fish, right here. For more, visit us at sanpedrofish.com. Follow along on Instagram at sanpedrofish and at Kings of Fish. In the next episode, I'll be joined by my good buddy Albert Dweck, who's also my partner when it comes to smoking cigars. So we'll probably be speaking about that in addition to his background, because he is a New York-based real estate developer who's currently negotiating leases for us, the San Pedro Fish Market, as we expand into new markets. He's a fantastic storyteller who will share valuable insights on financing and real estate strategies, so don't miss out.